Okay, very good morning to everyone, fellow architects, interior designers, building draftsmen, graduates, also LAM Secretariat, of course. Salam hormat to Datuk Presiden Architect Azman and Registrar Architect Hani. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So when architects and interior designers talk about exam, the most common topic of interest is the percentage, or to be exact, the passing rate. So I would like to treat today's presentation, or maybe I'm standing here today, it's actually representing Majlis Peperiksaan Seni Bina or Architectural Examination Council, basically to share what's on Examination Council's table. So I would like to treat this as a conversation to share some thoughts for dialogue in the afternoon later. So when we talk about percentage or passing rate, so let's start the conversation with that statistic first. I've been involved with Exam Council as panel or examiners for quite a long time, since the chairmanship of Tan Sri Esa here, then Arwah Hussein Hamzah, then after that, Jasmine. So it is fair for me to say that the Exam Council throughout the years have constantly monitoring the performance of candidates in the exam, and also constantly reviewing the exam to make sure that it remains relevant to the profession, as well as trying to support the candidates without compromising the benchmark or the expectation of the profession. So the latest change is actually made in 2016. In 2016, when LAM decided to introduce another set of exam. So the candidates who fail in September paper do not have to wait for another year to resit the paper, but they can continue the momentum preparing the exam and sit for the exam in March the following year. So we take, Exam Council take the March paper as a resit paper to September paper. And in addition to that, in 2016, Exam Council also extend the duration of exam from 3 hours to 3.5 hours for candidates to answer 4 questions. So the decision was the right move. So when it was first introduced in March 2026, we hit the highest percentage in passing rate at 55%. In fact, this was the only time that we reached more than 50%. The other high rate was 49 and 47%. So the lowest rate of passing is at 6.5%. If we combine the passing of the September paper and the repeat at March paper to accumulate for the year, meaning that if you look at the, let's say, 2016, the first percentage, the laser is not that strong, and the 2017, we get a total of 34%, and in 2017 first and March 2018, we get about 52%. So that accumulation gives the average pass of 122 candidates per year. So let's look at the statistic in a different angle. So this statistic is a passing rate of the highest passing rate and the lowest passing rate according to topic. So we can see that the high passing rate in many topics are quite high. At 73% is the highest on Architects Act. The questions are mainly focused on letter of appointment, setting up practices, scale of minimum fees, letter of appointment. Then the other high rate is building contract on payment certificate, and Housing Development Act is also quite fair. These 3 topics, the highest 3 topics, were of concern before 2010. Actually, I forgot to mention the passing rate, the lowest passing rate at 6% was from 2010 onwards. Before that, we have reached even lower. I think it was 4.8% before 2010. So Exam Council have identified a few areas of concern or a few topics of concern that candidates are consistently not meeting the expected proficiency. So we have identified three topics of focus. So let's first look at the red box, which is questions on fire. So at the highest rate, at 34%, is very much lower than the other topics, and the lowest is at 4%. So the question is, should this be a concern to the profession? The second topic is on development plan, structure plan, local plan, plot ratio, density. We find that the candidates have a poor understanding on the conceptual idea of development control, or looking at things. They're very good in micro, but they're not very good in macro understanding. The third topic is construction commencement, that relates to compliance to law and regulations. So this one is pretty recent. 75% of candidates miss out on the compliance to the safety requirements under DOSH. And they also missed out the requirements on CIDB and the various permits like permit for export and so on. The standard answer is very much limited to submission of Form B, building plan approvals, and permit for temporary building. So that's where we are at. So before I move on to where we're going, let me take a few minutes to refresh on what MPS or Examination Council is about. Examination Council is one of the two councils under the Board of Architects Malaysia. It has its own autonomy within the parameters set by the board, especially in administration and managing the exam, of course. And under the council, we have three examination panels. The first examination panel is Part 1, Part 2, led by Prof. Ramli. I'm not sure whether he's here today. This panel actually conduct exam on graduates from non-accredited school. So last year, we introduced online portfolio assessment. This is to allow international students from non-accredited school to apply to get Part 1 accreditation and to apply for Part 2 program in Malaysia. This is actually in support to university program in Malaysia. And second examination panel is Part 3, led by me. And the third one is the latest, the panel peperiksaan pereka bentuk dalaman, led by Chris Yap here. He's instrumental to setting up this. That it looks a bit more complex, but the reason is that because it's a combination of this Part 3, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. It includes the qualifying assessment for ID graduates from non-accredited program as well. So interior designer licensure examination, so we call it IDLE. Chris call it IDLE. So registration for ID was incorporated in Architects Act in 2007, and subsequently in 2015, it was amended again to include registration for consultancy practice. So the first IDLE exam was conducted in 2023. So this year, in March or April actually, because of Raya, is only the third exam. So we don't have that many statistics on IDLE, but the council have identified a few areas of concern to be addressed. Currently, because it's new, we see that there is a big gap between the proficiency of ID graduates or candidates to the expectation of the exam. So MIID, the president is here, has given support to help LAM or council to provide promotion and training to interior designers, graduates, so that they can better prepare themselves for their exam. So let's look at the stakeholder here. The animation is not working. Um, this is how candidates look at the exam. So after 5.5 years or to 6 years, pushing up the rocks for part 1, part 2, completing that, the candidates have to continue pushing up the rocks, up the hill for 3 more stages before they can register themselves as architect with LAM. So like Albert Camus look at Sisyphus, the candidates should also see themselves or to find meanings and joy in pushing up the rocks and with a vision to build own capacity to meet the proficiency expected by the profession. I see Exam Council or MPS on a yearly looping train. Again, this one should be an animation of a looping train. Okay, so MPS has deliverables to go at checkpoints at fixed time. So come what may, rain or shine, the train must continue and deliver at the exact time. In administrating let's start with the blue dots. Administrating the exam, in February, last week, we should receive IDA logbook. By the way, a Happy New Year and Kongsi Fachai to everyone. So 1st February is the start of the yearly looping train to MPS. The logbook for ID is not much, but we expect that to be more in the future. And by next month, 1st March, we'll be receiving Part 3 logbook, average about 100 to 150 logbook. And we have to complete the assessment within 6 weeks so that the candidates can prepare themselves for the oral exam later that year. In March, end of March, is a big day. The exam councils have 4 sets of exam papers to prepare. 2 sets for Part 3 exam. Candidates for March paper is about 100 to 150 on average, or 150 to 200 on average. And for idle exam is less than 100 as for now. And we have to complete the assessment within 8 weeks so that the candidates can prepare themselves for September paper if they do not get through. And May is just a one-day deliverable for oral exam. That's pretty easy. And the next big day is in September for Part 3 written exam. We have on average, about 250 to 300 candidates. And again, we have about 8 weeks to complete the assessment before the festive season at year end. So that's administrating the exam. And on top of that, we have Part 1, Part 2 portfolio assessment as well as ID qualifying assessment to go through. In addition to that, one of the major tasks of council is actually to engage with the candidates as well as stakeholders. There are 4 checkpoints. In February is more to meet candidates to discuss about the September exam paper so that they can do better in March. And then in April, we have a briefing with those who newly registered for the exam to brief them on how to prepare themselves for the written paper or for the exam overall. The big workshop is in August. Try to use this. The big workshop is in August. This one is more a structured workshop specifically for candidates sitting for September paper. We have paper presentation in the morning, and in the afternoon, we focus on special topics. Currently, we focus on fire fighting system to improve the percentage on passing rate. Then the third task is actually the council constantly collecting data and information and observe the performance of candidates and the exam papers and review on how to improve the exam or the passing rate and for the exam system to remain relevant. So my position at the moment is that the exam system to be reviewed at every 5 years officially, or maximum 10 years to make sure that the exam system remain relevant and healthy. So that's where we are about MPS. So what are we going to do next? So last year, the Exam Council decided that, or adopt, to improve the exam system, to look at the exam system at a different angle, looking at exam as a tool for capacity building. What it means is that we want candidates to use the exam as a tool to build their own capacity to meet the proficiency and skills and expectation of the profession. So by doing so, when the individual build their own capacity, it automatically will build the capacity of the profession and the industry. So that's the big idea. How are we going to do this? First, we're going to revisit the Part 3, not just Part 3 exam, but ID exam as well. We're going to revisit this. We're going to, not looking at incremental improvement, but we are prepared to look at a more radical approach, not only to address the current challenges, but also to prepare the exam system for future challenges in practice. So I'm going to expand that later. So the next one is a review performance. We have been doing this, but the new position Exam Council take is that when we review performance on exam results, we're going to give feedback and engage with the candidates better to address on areas of concern so that they know which areas that the candidates to beef up their skills or capacity. And the third one I mentioned just now, conduct a structured workshop for candidates with focus topic. Currently, we are going to focus on design fire safety. So basically, Exam Council or Part 3 exam panel is on a mission to improve this percentage, because 4% and sometimes 2% is actually quite, can be quite damaging to the profession. Okay, the percentage on the fire question just now, 4%, is actually correlate with the percentage presented by architect Chi Su Ting. I can't see him here today. On the information received from Jabatan Bomba, about 60%, more than 60% of plans submitted by architects to Jabatan Bomba was outright rejected. So there is a correlation here. Okay, other tasks at the council's table is very much administrative. Last year, we introduced online platform for Part 1 and Part 2 examination, I mentioned earlier. And then we also have initiated last year a discussion and meeting to shift the physical logbook to digital logbook. So we're hoping to complete this by end of the year. And this digital or online platform will be expanded to the administration of the exam, like registration of candidates and so on. So this is going to be quite a big task and would definitely support the running of the exam. The third is more updating. This is ongoing. We hope to complete this year, updating all the documents to align with each other, especially with the latest Architects Act revision. The fourth one, we want to get better engagement with stakeholders and members of the profession for feedback and input. So let's look at the Part 3, the exam system, the review on the exam system. Last year in October workshop, we invited a group of architects from different background, the senior practitioners, newly past Part 3 architects, and also those who are involved in training, to come here at this hall to discuss about what are the potential of improving the exam system, what are the options available. So we discussed, there are a lot of questions, like the overall exam system. The big question is that does it still fit for purpose? So even at university now, it's moving away from the written exam. So written exam is more like a reward and punishment system rather than purely, truly an assessment. you probably see later in a next slide. And we also discussed about syllabus, whether the syllabus need to be expanded, because there are a lot of added responsibilities being put to architects, like safety, BIM, OTTV calculation, and so on, whether that should be incorporated in syllabus or not. And the third one is the oral exam, whether is it really necessary to be done after return or before return. And the big question here is on the written exam. Is it sufficient to test candidates' proficiency and ability to practice independently? Looking back at the fire question just now, at the 4% average, 4% actually happened quite a lot. 4, 10, 11% happened quite a lot, and which is much lower than the passing rate of the paper. So if you look at even those who passed, the candidates who passed the exam did not meet the proficiency expected for the design for fire safety. So that's we can stipulate that. So the question come in whether that written exam is actually the right tool to filter this proficiency level. And the other is that the many candidates who pass the exam only answered 3 questions out of 4. And they usually miss the fire question. So they answer 3 questions, score very high, and they still pass. So it doesn't reflect really the benchmark that we set. So these are the 3 options that being discussed even before last year, but it's added and fine-tuned. The options to consider is one, to conduct exactly the same as now, but on 2 different days instead of 1 day of 7 hours. Second is to include compulsory training module that carry some percentage to the exam marks. So this was the second option. The first and second option is very much, I see it as an incremental to the system. It doesn't give a big leap to the exam system. And the second option was approved in Exam Council some years back, but did not go through the board. And the understanding, to my understanding, the reason is that with this option 2, the candidates may not have to pass the written paper. Say that they get 20%, accumulate 20% in training module, they only need to acquire 30% in the written exam. So 30% out of 70 is actually a fail in the written paper. So that board is quite concerned on that, so they did not approve this proposal. My position at the moment, I would like to shift the option to option 3, to implement the 8 questions in the 2 papers in 8 separate papers or 8 modules. Each paper will be 1.5 hours, probably just 2 questions, and on specific topics, so that the candidates can prepare by topic, and the paper is more digestible, it's less stressful. So let's look at this option in a bit more detail. So what this option is about is actually liberalizing the exam paper. Previously, I mean, many of us actually have to pass paper 1, paper 2 in one go. If you even fail one paper, you have to resit for the 2 papers. So Exam Council decided that they can pass the paper independently. So this is actually a follow-through to this concept, where we split even more to 8 papers. So what it means is that by liberalizing this paper and putting each topic to separate paper or modules, it allows the module or the topic to adopt different format or system that is most suited to the topic. Example, on fire. Maybe exam paper is not the best way to assess or to build the capacity of the candidates. Maybe fire question is more suited for workshop or training. So if it's exam paper, it's 1.5 hours, not more than 2 hours, but just 2 questions. So it's very palatable, very digestible. You know, if somebody have a free Saturday, just go and sit, pay 150 ringgit and sit for that and try your luck, rather than try your luck with 900 ringgit and have to stress yourself on all the syllabus on 7 hours. And it's like a deciding day. You meet the standards or not. That seems to me like a reward and punishment system. Whereas this will be more towards a capacity building. You build capacity progressively, and you know where you are at. So the papers can be taken on separate days, and all modules or papers will be available in 1 year. So if the candidates want to sprint the Part 3 exam, they can take all papers in 1 year and can still pass, meaning that the overall minimum duration remain the same. So what is the setback here? So some look at this is based on the workshop and also discussion. Some people look at this as hurdles. Instead of 2 hurdles of 2 exam paper, now 8 hurdles of, even though it's a smaller hurdle, but it's still more numbers of hurdles. And the other is that this one came from Dato' Izumi in the previous discussion, because he was representing Pemuda. If we split to 8 modules, it means that it's menyusahkan rather than memudahkan. The other implication is, of course, logistic and administration by LAM. But that, I think, that can be managed. If the system fit better for the purpose, I think that Datuk President, I'm sure Datuk President will consider that. But these drawbacks is actually from the point of views from architects who have already passed. They're not, the opinions or the view are not from the candidates themselves. So what we did last year, we conducted a survey. 180 candidates responded at the workshop with prior briefing, of course. They are asked to choose a different format of exam that they consider they're more comfortable with, or how they would like to see the future exam to be. So the highest is at 37.1%, as same as now, but the paper is on 2 separate days instead of on the same day. The second one, to my surprise, or to exam council's surprise, that a lot of candidates actually opt for this compulsory training because they want training. And I put together the option 3 and 4 together because they are aligned with option 3 that I talked about earlier, splitting the exam into 8 modules, either is training, or workshop, or exam papers. So if we total that up, it's about 25 or 26%. So this give a good signal where candidates are more comfortable splitting to a more digestible and palatable exam rather than 1 day kill all kind of approach, heroic approach of 1 day. The last one, 10.2%, is to remain as it is. So very small numbers of candidates actually comfortable with the current system. So let's look at the statistic again. So this is the statistic according to questions, the passing rate according to questions. So look at the paper 1 and, paper 1, laser is gone, my Jedi saber is gone. The paper 1, question 1 to 4, and paper 2 the same, and the row are the set of exam paper. So let's look at the third row, which is the March exam last year. So the passing rate for each question is pretty high at 33, 66, and 37, which is well above the overall passing rate for the paper. So the killer question that dampened the passing is actually question 3. This one was on development planning, on development control, 4%. And on paper 2, same year, 43, 58, 35 is pretty good. The question that dampened the whole mark is fire question at 4%. And September last year, we even reached 63%. And the question that dampened is question 4, which is on construction implementation. The candidates who miss out the requirements on safety by DOSH. NCIDB. And in paper 2, it's the same question lah. The fire is a regular villain in the exam paper. So imagine this question, 4 plus 4, 8 questions. Imagine this as a separate module or as a separate paper. We will get more passing, basically. And that the candidates would not have to repeat the question that they already passed. They only repeat a particular topic that they weak at. That's the whole idea. So this statistic actually support the idea of option 3 that I talked about, liberalizing the exam into 8 modules. So with that, I end the conversation for now. Until later, we continue the conversation in the afternoon in the dialogue. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.